Today in the book lab, we're going to be taking a look at fixing up the oversized junior set that is the Avengers Compound Battle. So the Avengers Compound Battle is a great idea in theory, but in reality, it does kinda suffer a little bit. It was brought to my attention by this lovely viewer who recommended some neat fixes, which I did implement. But then looking at the set as a whole, I was like, you know what? This set does need a whole lot more than some cosmetic fixes on the inside. So let's see what we can do to take a look at fixing it up. So moving on to the upper floor of Avengers HQ, we can see that there are some Avengers in there, and that already improves it like 1,000%. Anyway, so we can see here the fixes that I added in here. We have the computer element from downstairs, along with some accessories on the wall here, and some holograms. Now these pieces did come from the Iron Man Hall of Armor set, because I figured if you had one set this wave, it's definitely going to be Iron Man's Hall of Armor. So I figured using pieces from that set were pretty safe. Now some of the holograms are pretty Iron Man specific, like this one here's an Iron Man mask, but the rest are generic enough that they could be used in pretty much any setting. Now the table does take up a lot of space, but I left it because I'm really a sucker for these hidden weapon cache things. You can see here that this one has a couple firearms stored. That's actually how it came in the set, and I just couldn't resist it, so I left. You'll notice I did kind of move the table over and out a little bit. The chairs no longer fit around the table, but you do have the extra equipment and the accessory racks and the holograms, and I mean, I figured the table is pretty much symbolic anyway. Like, who's gonna have the Avengers just sit around the table when Thanos is attacking outside? So moving down a level, we can see this S.H.I.E.L.D. agent hard at work refilling his smoothie cup. I mean, totally checking the security perimeter and stuff. Here was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. This came from one of the superhero sets a while back. I thought it was a nice touch to have a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent in place, since the set does feel pretty bare with the Avengers minifigures. So anyway, we can see these pieces here actually did come from the Iron Man Hall of Armor set too. I basically just ripped them out and implanted them here. This computer terminal and the glass came from the Avengers Airport Battle set. These were inside the main computer building. And if you're wondering what's inside the little cupboard here, it's the space I'm using to store the Ant-Man microfigure when he's not in use. That way, hopefully I won't lose him. Anyway, and on the wall here, you can see that we do have a little control panel that I tacked on. Another option might be to put in an Avengers logo tile here. I mean, there are a couple scattered around throughout the build, but you know, another one couldn't hurt. And you can find some of those in the Captain America motorbike set. There's an extra one or two in there. But I prefer the control panel here, especially since I didn't put the sticker on the outside of this 1x1x5 brick. So moving over to the gauntlet chamber here, we can see that I actually left that exactly the same, and well, wait a second, that's not the real Infinity Gauntlet. No, it's not, but it's something I'm going to be using in an upcoming video, so you know, there's just a little teaser for that. If you're wondering what it's for, well, you know, subscribe and all that. So moving over to the far side of the garage here, we can see that I built up this empty space using parts from the Avengers Airport Battle set. I added in a door from that main control tower and also that exploding wall function. Granted, there's no mechanism to explode it, but it explodes just as well on its own. And if you like, you can even explode it inwards, which might be more fitting given that Thanos is attacking. Now, I will say I do get why LEGO left this area open. It's that little kids can reach in and drive the S.H.I.E.L.D. car around to their heart's content without their little hands getting stuck. But you know what? I like this better built up, so that's how I'm gonna put it. So while we're on the topic of the garage, I did think about replacing that horrible Junior's Jeep build with this much more robust Jeep from the Captain America Civil War sets. The only problem is it really doesn't fit inside. The tires will, just barely clear, but those mirrors, no. Now, you can remove the mirrors, and it will just kind of fit in there. You'll kind of have to squeeze it a bit, but it's not a pleasant fit, and plus, your Jeep won't have mirrors, which is not a good thing, because safety first. Or you could probably even fit in a modified version of the Captain America Avenging Cycle. This one looks pretty neat, and this one isn't quite as bulky and imposing as the original, and it actually does fit in there. But if you do like the Jeep, of course, you can just modify it a bit. All I had to do was add in these two axle pieces. They're the only parts that didn't come in the set, and then basically just build the Jeep around those parts, and it turns out like so. And I really love the way it turned out because this just looks so much better. It's probably hard to see on camera, but it's not as awkward and it's not as clunky, and it actually looks decently Jeep-ish. And while we're on the topic of helicopters, there's this thing. And let's face it, there's just no fixing it. It just looks like somebody crammed in a Lego City helicopter into the superheroes line, which is probably exactly what they did. It's probably a scrapped helicopter design from one of the city sets. But hope is not lost. In fact, we can just, well, toss that thing. We're not going to use it. We're going to replace it with something much better, and that's this helicopter, which comes from the Lego City Police line. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? I did replace the white that was on the underside here and on the tail with this dark bluish gray to make it fit in with the shield colors. Now, if you don't have it, of course, I would recommend, well, any other helicopter ever rather than that Avengers helicopter. Now, since this helicopter does come from LEGO City, it doesn't actually feature any weapons, but that's not a problem because we can simply steal the rapid shooter and plug that in on the side here using this handy dandy little simple attachment I used to put it in. If you're wondering how I made that, it's basically this little click hinge assembly. Put it in, you just attach it to this handy little 1x4 brick that I also put in there. Granted, it's not a very secure position and you're not going to be able to use this for robust play or anything like that, but it looks cool just sitting there, and, you know, it's a neat little design. You could even add one to the other side if you want. And of course, you could probably figure out a much stronger connection than I did. I just put this on here just for the sake of the video, so that I'd have something to show you. But yeah, it'll fire studs. You can fire studs to your heart's content, and honestly, it looks pretty neat. So moving on to the front of the garage, this is definitely my least favorite part, and at first I didn't know why, but I think it's really because it just reminds me of every single LEGO City fire station and police station ever. It just kind of feels more like the Avengers Firehouse than the Avengers Compound. But I mean, that's just me. Maybe I'm just getting way too old for this stuff. But I mean, it also is LEGO, and there's no need to get bent out of shape about it, since we can just fix it and twist it to our very whim. Anyway, so first thing I did right off the bat was replace this trans-orange radar dish with a plain gray one, and just got rid of the red stud. It just makes the build look a little bit more mature and not as childish, although granted, you could argue that since the radar dish isn't actually present in any of the Avengers compounds, like the actual ones, you could just do away with it entirely, which if you want you can, because let's be honest, that thing's kind of ugly anyway. And what I'm going to do is just tear this little area off of my build, because you know what, maybe you like it there, but I really don't. I'm not a fan. Now, what you could do is just do something else with the space here. Maybe add in, like, oh, I don't know, if we're gonna keep this juniors, if we're gonna keep this juniory, we could maybe throw in a fountain or a park bench or something. I'm kidding. I'm a little bitter, and I don't know why. Maybe something Avengers appropriate here. Maybe even a drone launch pad or something, or shoot, I don't know, a little watchtower. I don't know, you could put whatever in here. Your imagination's the limit, really. But if you just want to get rid of this thing entirely, that's not a hard fix. All you need to do is just lift these two main towers here and pull out this little thingy and this little thingy. Pull out those two plates, and then we're actually just going to use parts from the build to fix it up. So we are going to locate these two tiles, and then we're going to plop them on underneath. And then all you need to do is open the garage door, and you can lift this off. And well, that is kind of a little bump there, so you might want to maybe just smoothen it out a little bit with the slopes here. Just make it a more gradual curve, and then just close the garage door back down. I guess when all's said and done, I would probably just end up leaving the garage like this. It's not the best, and I really feel like there's probably a better fix out there. But, you know, it got rid of the toll booth, so I'm happy. Anyway, that about wraps up our look at the Avengers Compound Battle set. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, and do all that other good stuff. If you want more of my videos, please feel free to check out my channel. And if you want more of my nonsense, please feel free to check out the links to my social media profiles, links in the description below, and all that good stuff. Anyway, we're out of time now, so I'll see you next time.